First up, vintage jewellery. Gold or sterling silver jewellery will always be worth at least its weight in scrap. So regardless of the make, always look carefully for hallmarks or stamps on individual pieces, and if you're lucky enough to find one, take it to a reputable jeweller for evaluation. As you would expect, world famous designers like Tiffany & Co, De Beers or Cartier are especially sought after, and while it's not impossible you will find one of these high value names in your drawer, if I was a betting man I'd say it is unlikely. So what about the more common high street jewellery worth cash money that you are likely to find? Here are a few brands I've identified to get you started. Pandora, Hermes, Swarovski, Lilian Rue and Martha Calvo. If you do find that ring or necklace worth money, my advice is to get it professionally appraised by a jeweller to determine its true value. Reputable dealers don't charge for their service, so what have you got to lose? And if you do want to cash in, consider selling it to a trustworthy jeweller at a specialist auction house or to an antique dealer rather than potentially giving it away on Facebook Marketplace or eBay. Second on our list, vintage watches, particularly those from luxury brands like Rolex, Cartier, Patek Philippe and Omega. And by the way, don't ignore your granddad's old pocket watch or military wristwatch, as they can fetch a good price if they turn out to be collectible. But don't worry if you don't unearth one of these high-end brands or collectible watches. You can still look out for more common high street brands with good resale value, including Casio, Seiko, Timex, Citizen, Fossil. When the time comes to sell, there are numerous reputable auction houses and specialist websites that deal in watches of all values. So always shop around first to find someone you are comfortable dealing with and, most important of all, to get the best deal. Third on our list, comic books and graphic novels. Most of us know early Superman, Batman or Spider-Man comics by DC or Marvel are highly collectible and can be extremely valuable. But what about the more common modern age issues you bought as a teenager and still have stashed under your bed? Here are a few valuable examples you should be looking out for. Walking Dead #1, published in 2003. Spawn #1, published in 1992. Wolverine #1, published in 2010. Captain Marvel #14, published in 2013. Iron Man #281, published in 1992. If you do find a potentially rare and valuable comic, and there are thousands of them out there, always seek advice from a specialist auction house who may advise you to have it graded by a professional service before selling it, as condition is king when it comes to comics. And don't forget, it's in their interest to achieve the highest sale price, as they all work on commission. Fourth on our list, circulated coins. Always remember, those coins made from gold, silver or platinum will always be worth at least their scrap value, and certainly more than their face value. So there are plenty of bullion dealers out there that will be more than happy to value them for you free of charge. While it's unlikely you're going to find a 1933 British penny or a 1913 American Liberty Head nickel at the back of your drawer, here is a small selection of collectible British and American coins worth checking your drawers for. First up, some examples of UK coins. They're not worth a fortune, but depending on condition, they're worth more than face value. So if you think about it, it's money for nothing if you do find one. The 2009 Kew Gardens 50p. A 2018 Peter Rabbit 50p. A 2002 Commonwealth Games Northern Ireland £2. A 2015 First World War 5th portrait £2. A 2015 Britannia 5th portrait £2. Several circulated American coins have risen in value due to their rarity, historical significance and collector demand. So here are 5 American coins worth checking your piggy bank for. 1932 to 1964 silver quarters. A 1982 no mint mark Roosevelt dime. 1942 to 1945 silver nickel. A 1969 penny with doubled die. 2007 to present presidential dollar coins with errors. Sometimes identifying these coins requires specialist knowledge, so if you're not sure what you've found, always have your coin appraised by a numismatics expert who will be happy to help you. And my advice is to sell it through a specialist coin auction or to a reputable coin dealer so you get the best return. Fifth on our list, vinyl records. Original pressings of vinyl records by iconic artists like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd can be valuable. And also look out for mid-century rock and roll, blues and jazz records. However, they can be hard to find, so here is a small selection of less well-known vinyl albums still worth money. Yes, by the Pet Shop Boys, released in 2009. Diamond Dogs, by one of my heroes, David Bowie, released in 1974. Born to Run, by Bruce Springsteen, released in 1975. Bleach, by Nirvana, released in 1989. An Ideal for Living, by one of my favourite bands, Joy Division, released in 1978. To be honest, the list of vinyls worth money is huge, so to give yourself a steer, why not Google your albums to find out if they're worth anything, or check out the sold listings on eBay. If you do find a valuable album in the back of an old record case, consider having it appraised and sold through a specialist music memorabilia auction. But don't forget, you will get charged a lot fee and a percentage of the final hammer price. 6 on our list, vintage toys. Why not search your old toy chest for those forgotten childhood toys, particularly those from the mid-20th century? We all know about the original Star Wars figures from 1977. They can be worth a small fortune. But what about those more common vintage toys now worth good money? Here are just a few examples you should look out for. Barbie dolls from the 1970s and 1980s. Furbies from the 1990s. Pokemon cards from the 1990s. My Little Pony from the 1980s and 1990s. Scalextric sets from the 1960s and the 1970s. As a rule, vintage toys become more desirable around 30 years after they were first issued. Basically, when collectors buying back their childhood have the disposable cash to afford them. To cash them in, find a reputable auction house that specialises in selling toys. They will appraise your toy and advise you on the best price they think it will achieve. And once again, they'll get the best price because they're working on commission. 7th on our list, first editions of classic books and specifically novels. The holy grail of vintage books are those signed by the author. Can you imagine finding a signed portfolio by William Shakespeare? We can but dream. Failing that, you can always check your old bookshelf, especially if you picked up your books at flea markets, car boots or charity shops, as signed editions can often go unnoticed when they're sold second hand. It goes without saying that the most valuable and desired books are by famous authors like J.K. Rowling, James Joyce, Ernest Hemingway or F. Scott Fitzgerald. But what about the less well-known authors? Here is a small selection of novels that still have value but can get passed over. Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, published in 1960. J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye, novelised in 1951. Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall, published in 2009. Alfred A. Knopf's Life of Pi, published in 2001. Dashiell Hammett, The Maltese Falcon, published in 1930. As ever, condition is important to a collector and will define the book's value, particularly if it has the original dust jacket. So always take advice and get your book appraised by a specialist before you sell it at an auction or to a rare book dealer. 8th on our list, photographs and postcards. Early photographs, particularly those taken by famous photographers or depicting significant historical events, can be valuable. Vintage postcards, especially those that are rare or have unique content, are also highly sought after by collectors. But what about the vintage photos and postcards that were just common ephemera back in the day? Here are a few collectible examples worth money. Original snapshots featuring iconic celebrities such as Marilyn Monroe command a high price in the collector's market. Also, look out for photographs documenting significant historical events, including images of social movements, wars or cultural milestones. Vintage postcards that offer a glimpse into the past through images of cities, landmark events and everyday life, including scenic views, architectural wonders, tourist attractions and cultural festivals. Also, look out for postcards printed in the 1960s or earlier rather than the glossy photo style postcards from the 1970s that were printed in their millions. The rarity and condition of these photographs and postcards, as well as their provenance and documentation, will influence their value among collectors. As ever, I always recommend getting them appraised by an expert before you sell them. Ninth on our list, vintage cameras. Always look out for cameras made by top brands such as Leica, Nikon or Hasselblad. But what about the more affordable and common vintage cameras we grew up using on our holidays? Here are 5 examples worth selling. The Canon AE1, the Fujifilm Finepix F31 FD, the Polaroid SX70, the Pentax K1000, the Olympus Pen EPL10. The resurgence of interest in photography and vintage cameras driven by students, filmmakers and enthusiasts has contributed to the ongoing demand for these models. As ever, if you're unsure of your camera's value, always have it appraised by a specialist and then sell through an auction house dedicated to vintage cameras. Finally, at number 10, early electronic technology. It's well known that first generation Apple computers, vintage radios, hi-fi systems or early gaming consoles like the original Nintendo Entertainment System are highly collectible due to their nostalgic appeal and unique features. But if you were an early adopter of electronic technology, what about the more common high street models that are now worth money? Vintage turntables. Classic video game consoles from the 1980s and 1990s, such as the Sega Genesis and Atari 2600. Vintage film projectors, including 8mm, Super 8 and 16mm models are sought after by collectors, filmmakers and enthusiasts. Brands like Kodak, Bell & Howell and UMIG are highly collectible, along with their accessories such as film reels, splicers and editing equipment. Vintage Sony Walkmans. Vintage mobile phones, including Nokia, Motorola and iPhones. It does depend on the age and model, but don't get throwing away your old mobile phone without checking its resale value first. Vintage electronics continue to hold their value in the collector's market due to their quality, craftsmanship, enduring appeal and cultural significance. While they may be considered common in the sense that they were widely produced, their popularity among enthusiasts and collectors ensures their resale value. So there you go, your attic, wardrobe or chest of drawers might be more than just a storage space. Without realising it, you could be sat on a treasure trove waiting to be discovered. But be advised, this list is far from exhaustive. It's intended to open your eyes to the potential value of a vast stockpile of vintage junk lying forgotten in our homes. So dig out your detective's magnifying glass and go and do your research. If you are lucky enough to find any of these items, handle them with care, get professional appraisals done and always sell them through reputable channels. After all, what have you got to lose? As I said at the start of this video, you're literally turning dust into dollars, or if you live in the UK, into pounds. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more content like this. And if you are a new subscriber, let me know where in the world you are from and I will add you to our digital subscriber list you should see scrolling up the screen as I speak. That's it for this week. Bye for now, and I'll see you next time. Happy treasure hunting.